Thank you.
Hi everyone, and welcome to this webinar on Azure Sentinel for Education. I'm your host for today, Amy Stokes-Waters. I work in our technical sales team and I lead on the education sector. And with me today I have my colleague Shelley Hill.
Hi, I'm Shelley Hill. I am the pre-sales technical consultant for Identity Experts.
And if anyone has any questions, I believe there is a Q&A box which should be on the right hand side of your screen. So if you want to drop any questions in there, then we'll answer them as we're going through. So let's get started. So first off, what is a SIEM solution? Well, for anyone that doesn't know, SIEM stands for Security, Incidents and Events Management. So why do we need a SIEM solution? Well, our digital estate is expanding. That makes it increasingly difficult to protect. Specifically from a university or college perspective, we've got thousands of students that are accessing solutions from their own mobile devices. So everyone's got their own iPhone or Android. They're all bringing their own laptops as well. We might have cybersecurity students out there who are testing out their ethical hacking skills on the university environment. Fingers crossed they're not, but potentially a risk. We've got partners that we're working with, organisations like schools and other colleges, as well as businesses we might work with to find employment for our students. On top of that, we've got a range of devices across the campus that we're responsible for. So obviously we've got our IT suites, we've got printers, we've got potentially VoIP telephony solutions that the staff are using, IoT devices we might have enabled. And these can all pose a threat to the security of our environment. And as we progress our digital transformation projects and we move increasingly to the cloud, our perimeter is expanding beyond the boundary of that physical network. So we're no longer sat within the four walls of our campus. And especially nowadays with coronavirus forcing us all to work and study remotely, our data, our users and our systems just can't sit within the four walls of the campus protected by our enterprise network. We have to start making things accessible from any location. But when we do this, we know that it does open us up to cyber attacks. The frequency and sophistication of attacks is growing, and it is a challenge that we all struggle with in IT security, no matter the size of our organisation. So our mission as people that work in cybersecurity is to protect our information and our assets. That mission is becoming increasingly difficult. As we've said, the attack techniques, the frequency, the complexity of those attacks, it's evolving really quickly. With more attack vectors comes more defensive technologies. So we've got new ways of being attacked. We need new ways of defending our environment, which potentially gives us the issue of having multiple vendors. We've got multiple products we need to configure, maintain and upgrade. And the best bit, I'm sure you'll all agree, multiple salespeople to work with. Another key challenge for the education sector is the shortage of cybersecurity personnel. So our teams, they're often understaffed. They can be faced with a fairly big workload because of the size of the user base, and they're protecting not only the staff identities, data and devices, which they might have a little bit more control over, but there's also the ever-changing cohort of students who need to access resources to sort of facilitate their learning. Adding to this workload, we've also got the amount of portals that we need to look at. So we might have a portal for our MDM solution, email threats, firewalls, and this itself can be a headache, the amount of different places we need to go to check to look at whether there's any security threats. We can also often see quite a high false positive rate in these isolated product sets. So using an integrated product set that would also help to reduce the noise, enable you to prioritize incidents and alerts and facilitate investigation, because we can correlate signals from across multiple areas. So we can look at your identities and your data threats and your mobile threats all in one place. So this is where we think Sentinel can really make a difference. Microsoft's made it easy to collect data from across a hybrid estate, so we know you won't have everything in the cloud and you will want to bring data from your on-premise services as well. So Sentinel can ingest alerts from devices, users, applications, servers, and any cloud service, including Azure and AWS. It's a cloud native SIEM, so that means there's no upfront costs. So there's no issue around infrastructure maintenance. We haven't got to power servers. There's no cooling. There's no overheads in terms of the infrastructure side of things, and we can scale up and down as the requirements change. So if we decide we want to bring in a load more connectors, we can obviously scale up quickly in the cloud without having to go down to PC World and Currys, where I'm sure you all buy your servers from, and bring a load more hardware on board. We've also got the ability to scale on demand, like I said, so it means you can start out small and then add additional integrations as you're ready to do so. We know some people are still on Google, but the majority of universities and colleges that I'm working with are using the Microsoft stack. So whether that's through the A3 or A5 licensing, this makes it easy to get started. So it's obviously it's Microsoft Sentinel, and we can start bringing in data from existing security tools. So all data from Office 365 is completely free to bring into Azure Sentinel, except Azure AD audit logs. But that means that you guys can get started for free today, which we will discuss next as I hand over to Shelley now, who's going to do a quick demo with you on how to get started.
Yeah, thanks, Amy. So I am going to show you how to get started with Sentinel so that you can see for yourself the insights it will give to your environment. So click. Thank you. Okay, so firstly, we start off at the Azure portal. Now, I've got Sentinel sitting at the top here, but if you don't see it there, you can just type it into the search bar at the top. There we go. And here we can see our workspaces. Now, I created this one early just to make the demo speedy, but you'll need to click and add to create a new workspace and assign it to a resource group. Now, I'll just click back to my workspace, and you'll see that I don't actually have any data yet. So I'm going to click here on data connectors, and we can see that there are a load of out-of-the-box connectors available. You'll see quite a few that you recognize, I'm sure. But we want Sentinel to start analyzing all of my Azure logs. So I'm going to connect to Azure Active Directory. Okay, if I open the connector page, and the wizard here tells me that I've already met all the prerequisites. So all I have to do is choose the log types I want to analyze, both the sign-in logs and the audit logs, but be aware that audit logs aren't free, and then apply changes, and done. Now Sentinel is connected to my Azure AD, simple as that. So if I click on next steps, yeah, you can see here that I have, I can see workbooks that have been recommended for this connector, and there are sample queries and analytic templates. And if I click on the workbook, I would be able to see the data being ingested, and I could customize the workbook. But as you'll see, I don't have any data. So there's nothing to see there yet. Yeah, nothing to see. But that's where I would be able to see and be able to customize my workbooks. So if I go back to connectors, I can add any other sources. So identity protection, Microsoft Cloud App Security, Security Center. I've already connected, and if I open that, I can see the details. You can see that I'm connected to my free trial subscription. Now I'm going back to my connectors, and I'm going to add Office. So you go to the connector page, select the record type I want Sentinel to collect. Okay, I'll open connector page, there we go. Right, I want to collect Exchange and SharePoint, apply changes, and select the tenant, which I can't do because I'm not authorized and I don't actually have a tenant available for this environment yet. But you can see with this one that, again, it's just as simple as it was with the Azure AD. Once you've applied those changes, then you are collecting the data. What I'm showing you right here is that there are also workbook templates available. So for all of those out-of-the-box connectors, it's a very simple integration. One click for the Microsoft ones. It's an easy way to get a handle on Sentinel for your own environment and see what it reveals. There are data connectors for a growing list of other technologies on-premise and across the cloud, including AWS and Palo Alto. You may have spotted that one there. And there's also support for standard log formats, so CEF, syslog, and WEF. There's also specialized taxi and graph connectors for the threat intelligence data, and REST API for cloud connecting to cloud solutions. Okay, so then there is a dashboard. So you've connected your connectors and you've got actually some meaningful data coming in. And so then you would be able to, this example of the dashboard, you'll be able to see once you are actually ingesting some of that data. From the main Sentinel dashboard, you get a bird's eye perspective of the events going on in your environment. Now, I've got a few that have started to trickle through in my new tenant. And you can see the dashboards combine multiple kinds of visualizations, including graphs and maps. So from here, we're able to see the trends across events and cases. And over on the right-hand side, you can see anomalies detected by built-in AI capabilities. So here we can take a look at our analytics page, where there are more than 100 built-in alert rules that have been developed by Microsoft and a community of security experts. You can edit these, or you can use a wizard to enable you to create your own analytics, or own analytic rules, sorry, using KQL queries. These rules then create alerts and incidents that can be used to trigger automated playbooks which orchestrate a response to the alert. So we can investigate our alerts and incidents by deep diving into logs or running built-in hunting queries developed by Microsoft. Or we can use this investigation map to understand the scope and identify the root cause of a security threat. So you can navigate the relationships between related alerts and identities. Sentinel automatically correlates entities across different data sources and alerts, so you can view a timeline of related alerts, events, and bookmarks. And you just click on any node to see the detailed information and get deeper insights into the related entities, so users and domains, etc. Now, I mentioned playbooks briefly earlier, where you can automate and orchestrate security operations using integrated Azure logic apps. So Sentinel competitors have to use a third-party SOAR platform. That's SOAR, SOAR, security, orchestration, automation, and response. Now you can build and run security playbooks to automate security operations against an incident or an alert. These are triggered on demand or by real-time automation. And some examples might be to assign an incident to an analyst, open a ticket with in ServiceNow or Jira, and keep that incident status in sync. You could also post to Teams or Slack, making sure the right people are notified when an alert becomes apparent. The fields in Logic Apps are dynamic, so when you're creating these automations, you can say look up geolocation for an IP address or send a validation email to a user, and you can also do remediation, so you can block an IP address or user access, or maybe you want to isolate a machine based on a particular alert. Now, to create these playbooks, you can choose from a library of samples or create your own using more than 200 built-in connectors, and there's also the generic connectors like HTTPS. So what I would recommend you do is start by going to Sentinel, creating a workspace, then connect to your Office 365 tenant, Azure AD, and any other Microsoft subscriptions so that you can start to see the kind of information that can be analyzed in your environment. You're benefiting from Azure Sentinel machine learning models that are they're able to analyze billions of signals to highlight a small number of high severity threats. So you're not overloaded with alerts. Once you've started to consume the data and you start collecting alerts and incidents, you'll be able to start to refine your alert rules and get a handle on playbooks for orchestrating responses and leveraging external tools such as the ones I mentioned earlier, like ServiceNow and Jira. So you're probably wondering, like, what can be ingested at no cost? well, Amy mentioned earlier, and so did I, there's Azure activity logs. They are free. Office 365 audit logs, so all your SharePoint activity and Exchange admin activity. All your alerts from Microsoft Threat Protection products. That includes Azure Security Center, Office 365 ATP, Azure ATP, Defender ATP, and Microsoft Cloud App Security and Information Protection. The Azure AD audit data is that one is not free, and that will be billed for ingestion into both Azure Sentinel and Azure Monitor Log Analytics. But to get started with your Office 365 ones, that would be at least you'd be able to get a handle on some real life examples in your own environment.
Thank you very much for that, Shelley. Hopefully that was useful for everyone to see how quick and easy it is to set up Sentinel. So just want to quickly now recap on the benefits of using Sentinel for educational institutions specifically. So obviously with universities and colleges, budget can be an issue. So having a cost-effective solution is key. So Azure Sentinel, like we said before, it's cloud native, so there's no infrastructure cost and there's no upfront fees. On top of this, like Shelley said, you can bring the Office 365 data for free. So the more security products you're using from the Microsoft stack, the more free data you can ingest into the solution. So the benefit of using integrated technology like Azure AD, information protection, advanced threat protection is really compounded when we can start leveraging this data in our SIEM solution as well. And like we've said, you can also bring in your Azure activity logs and your Office 365 logs to make sure you've got a holistic view of that environment. We often get asked as well around how organisations can predict monthly billing so that they can budget accordingly. So you can use Azure reserved instances for Sentinel in the same way you can for just standard Azure VMs. So you take out a set amount of storage each month for a fixed contract term, and in return, you can get up to 60% savings. On the flip side, if you don't want to commit to that fixed term investment, then you can take the pay-as-you-go model. So that gives you the flexibility to scale your solution up and down throughout the year as you see fit. Secondly, Sentinel, it easily connects to sources across our hybrid IT environment. So we don't want to spend excessive time, money or effort integrating existing technologies into a SIEM solution. And with many universities and colleges already using M365, we can leverage the pre-built connectors to bring in the Microsoft solutions quickly and easily, as Shelley showed you. However, we do know that not every organisation runs on Microsoft technologies as much as we would like that to be the case. With an extensive partner ecosystem, Microsoft had the foresight to also create native connectors and dashboards for solutions including Palo Alto, Symantec, Fortinet. There was a few others on that list that Shelley showed as well. I think Cisco's on there. And there's also the Graph API integration. So that means you can bring your own threat intelligence data as well. So that gives you the flexibility to customize Sentinel to suit your organization's needs. Now, if you work on the front line, reducing alert fatigue is probably one of the most important benefits for you. So using machine learning, Sentinel can analyze activities across multiple cloud services to provide you with more accurate reporting on security incidents. So it's reducing that false positive rate. So if we start at the left-hand side of this slide, we can see we've got the ingestion of raw data that's coming from our cloud services, so such things like Office 365 and Azure. We can then run that through machine learning to understand, through the advanced threat protection suite, so we can pick up any anomalous actions. So we've got things like identity detections, anomalous Office 365 actions, anomalous Azure actions. And from those anomalies, we can use the machine learning engine to pull out hundreds of potentially suspicious candidates. So that might be something like anomalous credential use, potentially something like a new admin's being added into SharePoint. So then, it's something that could potentially be a risk. We then apply an additional round of machine learning analysis to reduce this down further, which then provides us with the cases that we want to investigate. This is where you can really enable your security operations team or SecOps team to focus and So they want to pick up these small amount of cases. Obviously, they don't want to be getting 320 alerts when there's actually only 18, as we've got as an example here. And with integration with tools like ServiceNow or Jira, then you can really prioritize and assign those security incidents to individuals, which then it helps to improve the efficiency and efficacy of your incident response. So that's a great benefit. And then finally, using the Microsoft Graph and AI-based investigation, we can really reduce the time it takes to understand the full scope of the attack and the impact of it. So like Shelley showed you, we've got the visual map, so we can really see the attack and see the scope of it, and we can take quick actions to remediate or mitigate those threats within that one dashboard as well. There are pre-built Azure notebooks and custom hunting queries which can automate threat hunting capabilities, and they give you the ability to proactively protect your students and staff, so it's more of a proactive effort rather than a reactive one. And as more data is fed into the solution, then Microsoft will develop more notebooks and queries, and obviously there's the integration with security community as well, who can also feed in those notebooks. So as soon as you start using your Sentinel environment, you're already on that path of continuous improvement. So finally, we just want to quickly run through next steps of how you could get started with Sentinel. So here's some actions that you can take today. You can go start a Microsoft Azure trial and spin up a Sentinel instance immediately. Hopefully the demo that Shelley gave you earlier really showed how quickly and easily it is to do that. Identity experts are also running proof of concept engagements around Azure Sentinel, so we will help you trial out the Sentinel solution. We'll bring in some of your data sources, and we can even help with a remote monitoring situation where we can help proactively monitor your environment as well. If you are also looking to start using more of the M365 security tools, then we can complete a security workshop with you as well, which will help you get improved ROI on your existing licensing investments, that would for A3 or A5 licenses. And if you want to learn any more, then my email address is on the screen now. Feel free to write that down and drop me a line. I think we've been answering questions as we've been going through. Shelley, have you picked some up?
Yes, all answered. Just about Teams. Teams is part of the Office 365 connector. So yeah, and I think that's about it really. And on-premise logs. Yes, Sentinel can ingest on-premise logs.
Excellent. Well, if there are no more questions, then we'll say thank you very much for joining us. It's been a pleasure, and we hope to hear from you soon.